All right, what's up, AP Macro students? It's your guy, Mr. Sandsgaard. It's been a while. New content here, and today we're going to get into personal finance. Now, here's kind of the deal. Um, Typically, I have about 3 weeks, 3 full weeks of a personal finance unit. You would have a final that is about this. We would talk about things like taxes. We would talk about career readiness. We would talk about paying for college. There's a number of different things that we would do if we met every day and had the time to do it. Unfortunately, we don't have that. And because I felt like we needed to focus on the test, you're not going to get a lot of that, which is unfortunate because you need this stuff. All right. You will find yourself someday being like, man, why didn't they teach us about taxes in school? Why didn't they teach us how to budget in school? Why didn't they teach us all that stuff? Well, the reason is because you had this class during the COVID-19 crisis. So remember, you're going to learn all this stuff on the fly in life, but you don't have to do things in a bubble, right? So talk to people that know this stuff. Talk to your parents. Talk to financial advisors. I teach this stuff, and I feel like I'm really good at it. And I've made smart decisions with money in my life. But I even have a financial advisor, right? And somebody to kind of run my investments and make sure that I'm doing the right thing. You don't have to do this in a bubble. So just remember that, when you are doing these things, you don't know what to do. First piece of advice that I can give you is talk to somebody. All right. And before moving forward too, you're going to get a lot of opinions from people. And those opinions are just as valid as mine. So some of the stuff that I'm going to be telling you today a lot of it is just my personal opinion. But I think they're good rules that I've followed in life, and I've had some financial securities. So I kind of keep those things in mind, right? And somebody might say, no, you really shouldn't put that much into savings. You should be doing this or that with it. They're certainly right. Okay, so just kind of keep those things going in mind going forward. Now, the first thing I'll talk about is budgeting. Budgeting is going to be super important for you moving forward. Now, some of you are already probably budgeting things, but not a lot of you probably have the additional costs that come with sort of the financial independence, right? So eventually you're going to get a career and you're not going to be living at home and you're going to have to be paying for things on your own, right? Eventually your parents are hopefully expecting you to do that, okay? And if you're not, then you're just going to be a financial burden on them. So you have to become financially independent at some point. And because of that, your costs are going to go up. The more independent that you get, all right, the more costs that are going to come. So yes, your income is going to increase as you start to get a career, but your costs are also going to increase, right? So budgeting is organizing your revenue and your expenses with the future in mind, okay? It's important that you should be able to get all the things that you want in life, but you're going to have to budget in order to get some of those things in life. Okay. So budget should take into consideration needs and wants. All right. Most kids your age, when they earn money, can save for the things that they want because they take for granted the things that are already provided to them. They're already provided housing and food in a lot of ways. Now, some of you are saying, well, my parents don't give me anything. I'm on my own, or maybe you're in that situation. I understand that some of you are in that, but the vast majority of you probably take for granted those situations. Okay. So what should you budget for? Okay, as your job turns into careers, in some of the expenses that you have are right here. Now think about you are a business, right? And you're going to have fixed costs, all right, or your overhead. These are things you have to pay, all right, no matter what. So things like mortgage and rent, okay? You're going to have to decide how much you're going to pay for the housing that you have. The more expensive housing that you have, the less money you're going to have in other places to spend on other things, okay? Retirement savings. Now, some of this is done automatically, all right? And I'll talk about that here in a different when we talk about investments. But emergency savings, transportation, phone, Right now, cable and internet is pretty is something that you would need, in particularly internet. Utilities, things like heat, gas, water, that stuff. You need that. Memberships, all right? So if you have, it could be anything from a Netflix membership to a gym membership. Those things add up. And then student loans, any debt that you would have after. Variable costs are things that you can kind of control, right, with a budget. Clothes, eating out, groceries, the type of technology that you have, entertainment, just daily spending habits, how much you drive, your personal care, makeup, shampoo, that kind of stuff. And then there's other things you don't even think about. Okay, those are your variable costs. Now, some of those things can be controlled. I know, for example, I had a goal this year. One of my goals is I'm not spending more than $100 on clothes, right? And so far I've spent $17 this year on clothes. I had to buy a pair of jeans, and I found a cheap pair, and that was it. It doesn't take into account gifts. So like my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday. I said, a new shirt or something like that. So that would be one of the things. My wife and I, we don't eat out in the month of January. Okay. We keep that as sort of we eat at home, and it saves us money, that kind of stuff, right? So those are variable costs that you would have. Part of your budget too is managing debt. Okay. Now, one of the things that I took a personal finance type of class in high school. Miss Nelson taught it. And the biggest takeaway that I got about that is that credit cards can be a very bad thing. Okay. But debt in the most part, for the most part, is pretty normal part of life. Okay. People have car loans and mortgages and student loans. You're going to have debt at some point in your life, and you're going to have to face it. Okay. The thing is, you have to have a plan, what your responsibility is when it comes to managing debt. All right. Too much debt can impact your future, but a little debt is pretty normal. And in fact, your ability to pay off the debt can really help you have less debt in the future, right? So what I mean by that is this: if I'm really good at paying off my credit card bills, if I'm really good at paying my car payments and my mortgage payments, I have something called a credit score, and that credit score goes up, and the higher it is, the more people will want to lend to me. Okay. And because they want to lend to me, they'll typically give me a lower interest rate if I want to borrow something like a car or take out a mortgage or that kind of stuff. So it can help you to build credit. So do budget to pay off your debt quickly. Okay. In most cases, you want to avoid financing, that's borrowing, if you can, and watch interest rates, right? So that's a big thing that you should be doing. My wife and I work very hard to not have any debt. Currently, the only debt we have is our mortgage, right, which is our house. And right now we're not in a huge hurry to pay off that mortgage, but it is something we would like to have in the future. We just don't want to pay too much more money than we need to on things that we had, right? Don't forget to pay off your credit card bill every month. Okay, if you have a credit card, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're not going to pay it off, you shouldn't have a credit card. All right, I didn't have a credit card until I was 28 years old. It just so happened to be the same year I got married. All right, and the reason is because I was worried I would skip payments, and when I got married, I married a very responsible person, and I wasn't worried about that anymore. Okay, so if you were like me in my early 20s, I probably wasn't a person who should have a credit card. So I had a debit card. I paid within my means, and because of that, I had probably a higher credit score than a lot of people my age. And so keep that in mind too. That if buying things within your mean is very important, and then managing your debt, and trying to stay out of debt as much as possible. There's a very famous financial guru. His name is Dave Ramsey, and he's big in no debt, right? To try to keep your debt in check. All right. So, yeah, again, money you owe and are paying interest on, you want to try to have a, a plan for that. Okay. Just checking my time here. Okay. All right. So, in budgeting, like economics, is about choices. It's your needs and your wants. Okay. So, look at the things that cost you money. What are the things you feel like you need to have, and what are the things that you can live without? Now, if there are things that you want, go and get those things, but you have to do you have to, work harder or do something in order to get the things that you want. And have it justified. Justify what it is that you're buying, and have a purpose for that. Don't just buy things, on a whim. Have a plan, especially those big ticket items that you are buying. I remember when I made the decision to buy a PlayStation 3, my first year teaching. It was a big deal. It was like $350, and I justified it by saying, "Look, if I play this for 300 hours and I pay $1 an hour, would it be worth it?" Yeah. And so you kind of justify things like that, but then that means I have $300 less to do other things. All right. So keep that in mind. And also know this, that about 20% of your income should go to saving. I can't stress this enough. All right. This is both short-term and long-term saving. Your short-term saving is stuff that would go into a savings account. Your long-term savings it almost will be automatic, but are things that you should be thinking about when it comes to the future. General rule of thumb is to have about 4 to 6 months of income in savings just in case. All right. The Sandsgaard family, we do 4 months. Okay. Meaning that in our savings account and checking account, if both my wife and I lost our jobs, we would have 4 months of income to pay all of the expenses that we have, until we find a new job, right? So this COVID-19 crisis is a good example of that, where people might be out of work for 3 months, right? And if they had 3 months of income, they're probably okay, but that stuff starts to dwindle down now, okay? In one kind of shocking thing, about 40% of Americans don't have $400 in savings. So this is it's a serious issue. So savings is an important part of the economic game. Okay, so 50%, which should be your fixed expenses, your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, insurance, food. 20% is savings, and then 30% should be the things that you want to do for fun. Okay, remember, budgeting isn't about doing just boring things. You want to do the things that make life worth living, but not all of it. But again, a vast majority of your money should be going towards the responsible things in life. Okay, I'm going to stop right there.